Right. Okay, so now Luca Nieri first came to my attention when a few of us caught the last couple of songs being performed by Colorama at a Port Eliot festival. A good few years back now. And I've since had the pleasure of discovering other music he's been involved with, including recording with Sarah Cracknell's last solo album. His own compositions are gentle, introspective, quiet, insular pieces which seem not to fit any particular current musical genre, making them all the more enjoyable to boot. Now, Always You is the name of a new collection of songs available from Bandcamp via the Wonderful Sound label. And I've sent Luca 10 questions, which he's graciously responded to. And I'm pleased to have been able to create another virtual interview. So let's start with a track from Always You. This is Leon's song, and then we'll get on with it. Luca. Hoping all is well with you and yours during the lockdown. So, where are you exactly and who's with you?
Hey Tony, all's well here. I'm just in West London with my son and my partner, just chilling.
In this alternative reality around us now, is it stifling or fueling your creativity?
To be honest, I've kind of always self-isolated or just been in and enjoyed quiet and relaxing. So for me, it's nothing alternative about this reality. It's actually very much like how I usually live my life. So it's nothing new to me, actually, to be honest.
Okay, can you tell us about your new album, Always You? It has a very different sound to the Alchemy, which I believe was your last album. And so, where was it recorded, and who else was involved?
Always You was recorded in my flat, in my front room, really, and some of it in my son's bedroom, just because it's he had posters on his walls and stuff like that, so it helped with dampening the sound. But yeah, it was all done in my flat, and there wasn't anyone involved in the making of it. I mean, I did talk to R.W. Hedges quite a bit about, I'd play him early mixes and we'd discuss things like that, and I'd show him how I was planning on doing it, and he listened to it and gave me his thoughts. Apart from that, no one else was involved really. It's just me at home.
Just don't mean to always seem to find always you.
Now, for the uninitiated and newbies out there, can you give us a kind of short playlist of tracks by band artists that you've been involved in?
I've been on a few albums, so I mean, Colorama Tamari album, I'm on that playing drums, percussion all throughout, and a couple of Colorama albums I'm on, I think 3, 4, I can't remember. The Monk's Kitchen records, I'm on all of that, writing the songs and performing. Sarah Cracknell record, I'm playing drums on that. Maybe some backing vocals and I think some percussion. Emma Tricker, I'm on a few of her albums. Cobblestone Street.
And I wander the cobblestone street.
I'm singing harmony on that one, but I'm playing percussion throughout. Chester P, which is a hip hop guy from London, produced his last record. Well, sorry, the record but one called The Past.
For the low-life people who struggle to make change, and street-life people with nothing to take aim.
And I'm playing stuff on that, drums, bass, and R.W. Hedges records, Hills Are Old Songs and Hunters in the Snow.
The drunken
I'm on all of it, playing drums, bass, guitar, pianos, percussion, backing vocals, stuff like that.
the charm of better places.
John Stammer's last record. Waiting Around, I produced most of that. But a couple of songs just, Stepping Around Our Clothes and Oblivion, amongst most of the other ones that I'm on. I think that's it.
Yeah, now I first saw you drumming with Colorama in a tent at Port Eliot Festival, and several times since then with the band, which always seems to be on the verge of becoming more popular. How did you get to know Carwyn, and has the band finished now?
I first got to know Carwyn many moons ago when I used to hang out with Lee Gorton quite a lot. That was the singer in the band Alfie that were popular, pretty popular in the late 90s, I think it was, mid 90s, I can't remember. But I got to be friends with him, and he had a club in Soho that he used to put nights on. It was a great little jazz club. I met quite a few people there. I met John Stammers, Pete Greenwood, Carwyn, Emma Drucker. I met quite a few people at that time. It was really good. And also Lee Gorton became manager of the Monk's Kitchen at some point. So, but before all that, I used to do the sound in his clubs. And one evening, me and Lee would go through at night. We'd go through. It was the days of MySpace, so we'd go through all the people adding themselves. People asking for gigs and things like that, and we would go through the list. And we came across Carwyn, and it was the tune Sound that we heard. We were like, yeah, let's get him a gig, let's get him down. So he came and played a gig. I was doing the sound. And any guitarist will tell you that if they have a guitar that plugs in, you usually don't really want to plug it in because the sound is terrible. But because we were in this little club, sound wasn't great anyway. The only thing you could do was plug a mic in, to amplify the sound. So I said to Carwin, I think I'm gonna have to plug it in so you can amplify the sound. And he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to mic up my guitar. Like how they used to do in the 60s or whatnot. So I was like, yeah, fine, but you're not going to be able to hear it because the PA system is not very good and blah blah blah. And you have to turn it up really loud because he plays finger picking quite, quietly finger picking, and plus you're in a club with people talking and all that kind of stuff. So he was like, no, I want to mic it up. So I let him do that, but then we had a terrible show because every time I tried to turn it up, it would feed back. Couldn't really hear his guitar, people talking, blah blah blah. So at the end of the show, we laughed about it, and he said, "Yeah, I should have listened to you. Like I should have plugged it in." So we were talking, and then we got talking further on, and he found out he knew that I was playing in the Monks and other stuff. So he said, "How do you fancy coming and playing some drums with me and Dave at the time, rest in peace, Dave Fletcher, that he played double bass." So we started a 3-piece. And that was 2008, I think it was, maybe earlier. So that's how I first met him, and then we carried on working together for a few years after that. But after a few projects, I've not been involved in anything that Carwin's doing. I've not really spoke to him, to be honest, for quite a while. So I'm not involved in any of the projects that he's currently working on.
Now, emotionally connecting to music seems harder to do with having such a random access to streaming services, though that might be just me. Have you emotionally connected to anything during the current lockdown? To any particular record or track?
I've kind of always been emotionally connected to music, regardless of what's happening on the news or like pandemic or all that crap. It doesn't really change how I look at stuff, to be honest. There isn't a particular record that I've connected with. As I said before, this is all pretty normal to me, just being in, listening to music or working on music or showing my son records or I've always been surrounded by tunes, so tracks and records and CDs and all. So there's not really anything that I've specifically heard or like had on repeat. There is one, actually, saying that. Myself and Roy R.W. Hedges have been listening to Dave Allen quite a lot, a singer from the 60s period, late 50s, 60s. He's pretty good. I listen to his stuff quite a lot on Mark Chiller's Afterglow podcast. It's pretty good. But I was doing that anyway, so it's that that's the only thing I'd listen to more than once at the moment.
Now, having spent most of my adult life in London, the band that provided the soundtrack for me to the city was Saint Etienne. It was always exciting for me to see this beautiful blend of musicians from Colorama and Saint Etienne come together for Sarah's solo album. How was that for you? I recall a high tide cutting short the set at Port Eliot for Sarah that year.
It was just good to work on. It's a great environment. It was just great fun, really. And then we went to do the gigs. We had a handful of gigs after that. That was really enjoyable as well. Playing live the songs that you've tracked is always good fun. So it was a privilege to be on the record and play the handful of shows that we got to play.
Now, I usually went to see films on my own when I was a kid. Got there too early. Sat listening to the music before anything was screened, taking in that amazing wide stereo sound that comes from listening in such a big room. usually, they're kind of like film music by big bands that eventually found the way onto those Reader's Digest box sets and ultimately charity shops. Now, Alchemy was a reminder of what film music is like. Do you have any favourite composers or films that you watch just for the music alone?
Yeah, I love soundtrack records. I've been listening to them since I was little, having like Jaws and stuff like that. My parents would have like The Omen or something soundtrack. So I always used to like that weirdness and the moodiness of, it's not like a record that has the talking on, so you can get, like when you have like Turn the Page and all that kind of stuff. Soundtrack records just throw you right in, and you have to just deal with it, So I've always loved soundtrack records. Some of my favourite composers though have got to be Ennio Morricone, Lalo Schifrin, I think Hugo Montenegro. Hans Zimmer, Mancini, Angelo Badalamenti, Vangelis, and then the obvious ones, John Williams and all those kind of people. But yeah, I love soundtrack records. I think instrumental music is some of my favourite types of music.
Now, seeing as my radio show is an excuse for me to broadcast Bowie music, what was your first Bowie album? And because sometimes these things matter, if I was to play Always You after this interview, what Bowie song should I play to follow it?
Sorry about the noise, it's just some idiot builder mate, he's like shouting. But yeah, about Bowie, I'm not really into Bowie, to be honest. I've never been into his music. But the only song that I do like is the one that Nirvana covered, "The Man Who Sold the World." Sorry.
Okay, thanks for that, Luca. But one more question: The Walking Dead or Z Nation?
It's a tricky one. Walking Dead or Z Nation? I mean, I'd have to say neither. I'd rather Twin Peaks or The Evil Dead, personally. Sorry.